We have some shocking polling that just came out this week that shows the old Democrat Party is being killed off. Chuck Schumer is at risk of losing his Senate seat in New York in 2028 after what I think is some insane polling that just came out, and you will not believe who is going to primary him. It is Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. Let me show you the polling, guys. Then we'll talk about how feasible this is for her. I actually think it's very feasible. We'll talk about why. Here's the polling, though. If you're listening, I'll read it out for you, but I'll put it up on the screen for everyone else. This is Representative Ocasio Cortez leads Senator Schumer by 19 points in hypothetical primary matchup. This is from Data for Progress, and what you see here is that Alexandria Ocasio Cortez is up 55% to Chuck Schumer's 36%, and then 9% are not sure. So even if Chuck Schumer gets all 9% of the not sures, he's not even really close to Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. And now you might be thinking, but Josh, people might not really know who she is. I mean, granted, if you're into politics, you know who she is. But the state of New York, everyone might not know who she is. She obviously represents one small part of New York as a congresswoman. However, they did polling on this as well, and this is equally as fascinating to me. This is what it says. New York Democratic voters prefer Ocasio-Cortez even after biographical information, meaning they polled people, and then afterwards they said, hey, we're also going to give you a lot of information about her, what she's done, who she is, and then we're going to re-poll you and see how you feel. And what you can see right here is that both for her and for Chuck Schumer, you can see Chuck Schumer's kind of in the dark blue, there's no change at all. There's actually zero change for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and there's a 1% shift in the more negative for Chuck Schumer. So in other words, Democrats are looking at this because New York is a Democrat state, and if they know more about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they actually want her much more than Chuck Schumer. These numbers, to me, mean two big things that are going to come in future years, The first pertains to the election in 2028. AOC will not be the congresswoman. This is my prediction. I don't think she's going to be the congresswoman for New York in 2028 anymore. She's either running for president or she's going to run for Chuck Schumer's Senate seat. And even though I'm not a Democrat, I'll tell you what I think is actually smarter. A lot of people are thinking she's going to run for president. I don't think that would be smarter. I think primarying Schumer with those numbers is the move. Because you got to think about this for a second. A lot of people criticize DeSantis for this reason. Sometimes in politics, timing is everything. And DeSantis running against Donald Trump, I like Ron DeSantis, so this isn't me just, crapping on DeSantis. But trying to primary Donald Trump, not a good idea. The timing was not there for him. Similarly, if you've got Kamala Harris or other people running in 2028, I just don't think AOC or even Pete Buttigieg, I don't think AOC is going to be able to stand to that. And I think the timing could be really poor for her. But you have to think about this. When you actually look at the numbers there, imagine the power move it would be to take out the very definition of establishment Democrat in Chuck Schumer. I mean, you hear establishment Democrat, who do you think of? You think of Obama, Hillary Clinton, Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi. That is the establishment. So to go in and take out Chuck Schumer is such a big resume builder. And again, you could say, oh, well, she could go into the presidency and take out Kamala Harris. That's true, but if you look at the polling, Kamala Harris is up like 35% and AOC is 5% in the Democrat national nomination. Whereas in this one, she's up 19% on Chuck Schumer. And for me, I just think it would legitimize her so much more for a future presidential run if she did that. And that brings me to the second reason why I think these polls are significant. We might be seeing a MAGA-style populist movement in the Democrat Party. And it's been there for a while. I'm not saying that this is like necessarily new. This is Bernie's whole shtick. And you saw AOC and Bernie kind of out there, not campaigning, but almost campaigning together in Arizona. I think it was 2 weeks ago. However, what you're seeing is that AOC could actually do in the Democrat Party what Trump did in the Republican Party. Trump basically has completely reshaped the Republican Party into something so much better than it was in like 2012 with Mitt Romney and John McCain. Both nice guys, but not MAGA, not what it is today. And I feel like the only thing right now Democrats could do is that same thing. I mean, that just logically to me, I just can't think of any other way forward for them. They're so pathetic in every way. And the establishment in the Democrat Party is so hated. And so you think about it, how can they go forward? I think that populist movement is the only way they can. And so if AOC ran against Schumer, I feel like that could be the beginning of this movement. And I have to say this as well. Even though this move makes sense for me from a Democrat perspective, like if I were a Democrat, this would make all the sense. From a Republican perspective, it does worry me quite a lot. It really does, because I think if AOC runs for president, we've got nothing to worry about. I don't think she's very palatable right now on a national stage, but building the momentum from running against Schumer could be a deadly, deadly move that changes the Democrat Party into a formidable force against MAGA, just like Donald Trump did for the Republican Party against the Democrats. I think it'll be really interesting to see. Trump and Vance, though, they need to keep their eye on what AOC does. Did you know that hundreds of thousands of Americans are going to lose millions of dollars this year because they forget to file their taxes? Guys, this year, 88% of filers get a return of over $3,000 back from the IRS, but a lot of people are not filing, thinking they're going to lose money, and they leave money on the table. And that's why I partnered with Quick Tax America. Quick Tax America has already gotten its average tax returner over $4,000 back from the IRS just this year. And unlike the other services, just because there's 1 week left till the tax deadline, they're not raising rates. All federal tax returns with them are only $69. It's a completely transparent price because it's their only price, no matter how complicated your taxes are. Quick Tax America runs dozens of simulations on your taxes to make sure you get the best return possible, and they do all the work for you. All you got to do is upload your files, answer a few basic questions, and schedule a 15-minute finish your return call with a tax professional, and they do all the rest. So go check them out at quicktaxamerica.com when you get those tax documents, or you can go to the link in the description below. Abby Phillips, a CNN anchor, was straight up lying on her show, and Governor Scott Walker, a friend of mine, put her in her place. Take a look.
Go back to Elon Musk for a second, because, I mean, it is true that he spent $20 million on affiliated groups that were involved in this race. Is it a risk for Republicans to put all their eggs in that basket? Not only did he spend the money, he came to the state.
Right.
He talked about cutting Medicaid, Social Security through DOGE, bringing those issues up.
Actually, he never talked. He explicitly said in Green Bay that he would not cut Social Security.
Well,
that's exactly what he said.
He talked at his rallies.
No, other people said about that, but I was there. I watched him.
Okay.
He did not say he was going to cut Medicaid.
Other people at his rallies who work for DOGE, who work for Elon Musk's organization, talked about those issues.
No, I was at the rally. Not one of them said that. That's what
there are
protesters
risks?
said, but nobody there actually said that.
Do you think that there are risks here?
There are.
For
If people
Republicans
believe the lies that
in
people are
those
saying
issues
about that.
being
But
associated
that's not at all what
with
they
Musk.
said. If people believe that Medicaid and Medicare is going to be touched, that's just a outright lie. What he talked about are people who are over 120 years old, who clearly are not alive.
Well, the reason I brought it
getting
up is
Social Security or Medicaid.
Okay, well,
that's
let's
totally wrong. I think
just to
Democrats
sort this out. The reason I brought this up is because the claim here is that there's massive, widespread fraud, and that's all they're addressing. That's obviously a disputed claim, because it's not true that 120-year-old people are getting Social Security checks. The checks stop at a certain point automatically, because those checks and balances
but those Social Security
are
numbers get counted for various parts of the federal government. So they don't get a benefit directly to those people, but they count for money that gets allocated to different departments in their budget. And they shouldn't be. If somebody's no longer alive, they shouldn't be able to count that.
I guess my fundamental question was, what are the risks here of Elon dabbling in elections for Republicans going forward?
Well, again, I think in the end, he's going to have to continue to make the case. Part of the reason why, when we talked about our recall, what flipped things for us early on in that recall process, Time magazine called me Dead Man Walker. And the reason was because all the narratives coming out from the press, coming out from the left, were about all these horrible, egregious things. Once we started to give examples of things we were actually doing, not the things the press said, not the things that our opponent said, but the things that we were actually doing, when we ended up going before the voters in the final election in the recall, we actually won by more votes than we did. So I think that what's paramount for him or anyone else aligned with him is keep giving actual examples of what they're doing. Set aside things like Social Security and make it abundantly clear that that's not being touched. But if there's waste, fraud, or abuse, spell it out, make the case, and bring it to the voters.
Here's what's so fascinating about that clip. Apart from Abby Phillips looking dumb, which is fun and fascinating, of course, Abby Phillips gets this false information, in my opinion, because she lives in this mainstream media mind loop. Like, it's possible that she knew she was lying. I actually think there's a good chance that she didn't know, that she was lying still, but she just didn't realize she was lying. And Scott Walker is saying here, I was there. Like, I was literally there. What you're saying right now is patently false. And it's because you didn't do you didn't do the research. You just are saying stuff. And I was actually there. I know what you're saying didn't happen. So she has to change her story. She sputters on about how Elon Musk is taking over the government and things like that, because that's what they do. They obfuscate. They go off into random tangents. But the bottom line is these people are not journalists. And the reason why I say that is because they just say things that they heard. She never actually verified that information, which is what a journalist does. Either if you're in an anchor setting like Abby Phillips, you get information from the journalists who are on the ground, and then you verify that, and then you present it. That's what you do. If you're in an anchor position. If you're the journalist, you're there in person, actually looking at it. And so in this situation, Scott Walker, ironically, is more of a journalist than any of them are. Because again, Abby Phillips is just saying stuff that she probably read on X that day. She didn't actually know. And she just thought everyone would go along with it. And unfortunately for her, Scott Walker was there to put her in her place. And as the old saying goes, you really don't hate the mainstream media enough. Hey guys, I want to let you know that my book, A New Cult, it's up on the bookshelf right there, is on Amazon right now. It's only $9.99. I talk about how the left has literally devolved into a cult, talk about some crazy stories. I know you'll enjoy reading it. Go check it out right now. The link is in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you haven't already, go down below, like the video, subscribe to my channel, and watch another video.